A very good morning to all our respective viewers. We, the JPIC members, are once again here to bring about some more enlightenment, reflection, and integrity. Today, we observe International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking on 26 June. International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking is observed every year on the same date to raise awareness about drug abuse and spread information among the common public about its side effect. The UN Watchdog or UN Dog has been working from 2 decades to strengthen action against the illicit trafficking and raising awareness. Many times, taking drugs become out of control, and this ruins the complete life. People are affected financially and legally as well.
Nowadays, the term drug means not only medicine but also the fatal narcotics that include cocaine, heroin, and many other specifications. All these drugs have their evil effects on the mind and the body cells of the addicts. The young generation, particularly teenagers, are the worst victims of evils of the drug addiction. Drug addiction is also called substance use disorder, which is a brain disease. The addict becomes dependent on the drug. The addict uses it despite having full knowledge of its harmful effects on the health. It is considered a brain disease because it changes the structure and functioning of the brain. There is an uncontrollable desire or craving to consume the drug. Addicted people often engage in compulsive behavior to obtain the drugs. The addicts find it impossible to control the drug intake. In case of drug abuse, people start taking drugs in larger dose than the recommended ones. The addict is not able to discharge his day-to-day responsibilities in an efficient manner.
Drug dependence is an adaptive state that develops from repeated drug administration and results in withdrawal upon cessation of drug use. Drug addiction is defined as compulsive, out of control drug use despite having negative consequences.
The question that now arises is that why then drug addiction is so common and the most affected part of the population is the youth. What is it that makes the youngsters so attracted towards drug consumption that they get drug addicted and lose self-control and self-restraint? It is a very important question to be pondered upon.
Drugs find a place very easily in the lives of youngsters who thrive alone. Loneliness, depression, genetic disposition, peer pressure, societal pressure, faulty compassion shape, lack of awareness. There are such innumerable reasons behind drug addiction amongst youngsters.
Some facts about people consuming drugs are chronic usage of drugs can lead to both short and long-term changes in the brain, which causes mental health issues like paranoia, aggression, depression, etc. There are 4 kinds of drugs: stimulants, example cocaine; depressants, example alcohol; opiate-related painkillers, example heroin; and hallucinogens, example LSD. Nearly 80% of domestic violence crimes are somehow related to the use of drugs. The most common roots of addiction are mental illness, chronic stress, history of trauma, and a past history of family addiction.
family history of addiction. Drug addiction is more common in some families and likely involves genetic predisposition. Estimations show that almost 44% of drivers in fatal car crashes are tested positive for drugs. In surveys of adolescents receiving treatment for substance abuse, more than 70% patients had a history of trauma exposure.
Vulnerable and marginalized groups, youth, women, and the poor pay the price for the world drug problem. The COVID-19 crisis and the economic downturn threaten to compound drug dangers further still when our social and health systems have been brought to the brink and our societies are struggling to cope. Around 269 million people used drugs worldwide in 2018, which is 30% more than in 2009, and over 35 million people suffered from drug use disorders according to the latest World Drug Report. Drug use increased far more in developing countries over the 2000 to 2018 period than in developed nations. Young adults and adolescents account for the largest share of those using drugs, and young people are most vulnerable to the effects of drugs as their brains are still developing. All governments need to show greater solidarity and provide support to developing countries, most of all to tackle illicit drug trafficking and offer evidence-based services for drug use and related diseases so that we can achieve sustainable development goals, promote justice for all, and leave no one behind.
The helpline 1800110031 has been launched against the backdrop of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address to the nation through Mann Ki Baat program on December 14, where he had desired to set up such a helpline to assist the alcoholic and drug dependent persons, their family members and community. Controlling the smuggling of drugs from abroad is dealt by the Health Ministry, BSF and Narcotics Department. The ministry is coming up with a national drug demand reduction policy shortly. The policy would look into various issues including the counseling of drug addicts at initial stage.
So now, after understanding and gaining enough knowledge about drug addiction, it is time that we learn some specific ways in which we can get rid of it. First things first, you must admit that you have an addiction. If you're feeling discomfort or guilty about your actions or your bad habits conflict or restrict your everyday activities, it's time you consider help. You can find a sponsor at your local rehab center, or even your friends and close family members can help keep you in line. If you know that someone is checking on you, you will feel less prone to succumb to your addiction.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. When a craving arises, states the Brittany Tackett MA, you may redirect your attention towards something else or distract yourself until the craving inevitably passes. Visualization techniques can also help, as you may imagine yourself in a relaxing setting.
There is a line from a well-known article by an addiction center that reads, "We have all made mistakes in the past, but today is the day to learn from them." Once you begin to live your life without your addiction, you will no longer feel the need for it. So take control, because you are the in charge and you deserve to be free from your addiction.
At all times, we must remember that children and youngsters are the most beautiful flowers of God's garden, and we must protect and nurture them so that they blossom for now and forever.